Good morning. Good morning. Hi, welcome to the Sawalha-Adderleys channel. Hope you're well on this strange morning, Sunday, the 22nd of June. Let me just say before we get going on this, thanks for joining me. Those of you who did last night, you wouldn't have wanted to. I didn't want to go live. We went live last night when the news landed. But if you would like to subscribe to the channel, please do. You're supporting a channel that just me and Nadia run. And it's a channel that is dedicated to, in the news content and this sort of side of things, current affairs, challenging the received wisdom of the mainstream media. That doesn't mean that sometimes we don't agree with sometimes what's coming through the mainstream media, but we try and provide an alternate take, a challenging take, a progressive take, a peel back the headlines and reveal what they're all up to take on what's going on. So if you wouldn't mind, hit the subscribe button. It helps us spread the word, share links, share clips, edit the fuck out of this, send it to people. If there's a bit that you like, if there's a bit you want someone else to hear, just use it, just do it. We also try to, if you subscribe here, we also try to be a sort of receiver of many of the clips that the mainstream media just don't show you. So for example, you know, Sky isn't going to show you something from the BBC, and the BBC isn't going to show you anything. They're going to pull things down, aren't they, that are potentially in any way shockingly, horrifyingly impartial. So, you know, it's also quite a useful place. Even people like my mum suggest, oh wow, at least we get to see all of the social media clips and all those bits and all that sort of stuff. Now, what was curious about this is the news. Obviously, we've woken up this morning to the news, bedding in that last night Donald Trump ordered his Air Force to bomb the 3 nuclear sites in Iran. Now, there are many aspects to this. Obviously, we've woken this up this morning, and this news is ricocheting around the world. You know, all sorts of new bits of news and responses and quotes and statements and meaningless comments from the likes of Starmer are dribbling out of, you know, leaders around the world, you know, speaking loads of words, sharing lots of comments and words and phrases, none of which amount to anything or mean anything. And as Braxton the Snake Fiend says, things are getting real for real, ain't it, sir? You're absolutely right. One of the things that came up a lot when we've been following and profiling and trying to reveal the inherent hypocrisy and horror and the global manipulation, both amongst our leaders and the press, around the Gaza conflict. And we said a long time ago that Gaza conflict, which, you know, let's face it, is a conflict that's been stoked, nurtured. The flames have been fanned of. It's been prolonged. It's been turned into a genocide by Benjamin Netanyahu. If there was, you know, when the history books turn their lenses back on this, and this is an interesting point, because I posted a meme the other day. If the news is as fake as the mainstream news, is as fake as it's proving itself to be, it makes you reflect on how accurate history is. And I hate to say it, what I think is trying to happen as we speak is a constant living, live, as we speak, erosion of truth in order to make sure that the history books of the future have a narrative that suits the despots, the tyrants, the Trumps, the Netanyahus, the Zionists, the extreme right wingers, the white supremacists, the Farages. They all want the history books of the future to make sure that this is seen as a right decision. And the only thing I believe, again, this is a little bit off the top of saying, do subscribe to our channel and other independent channels, is that it's only, it strikes me, going to be social media and the independent media that are going to be able to have any claim to discussing, talking about, revealing the truth of what's going on. So we're at this point where something that most people would, walking down the street, go, what the fuck is the input? Why do I need to care about Gaza? Why do I need to care about the Middle East? Well, I'm presuming and I'm hoping that most people have woken up this morning, have woken up to the drama. So last night, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, and it serves us to kind of just retread through the steps, re-step the treads, re-walk through the steps. We've completed a very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. This is the bit that now is the time for peace. I think what's been interesting looking at most of your comments after we went live last night and looking at a lot of the outrage and upset is what a curious way to pursue peace. I've never known peace be pursued through huge bombing exercises. And there's an interesting detail in this, in that Iran are claiming that Fordo hasn't been particularly damaged that much, that most of their uranium enrichment has been taken from these places. I mean, you know, I think everyone in the West just assumes Iran are completely fucking stupid. I mean, let's face it, Netanyahu talks about any other creed, color, or race in the region. He characterizes them as savages. Don't be under any illusions. Benjamin Netanyahu is your absolute communal garden, regular, old-fashioned, white supremacist, slave-owning racist. That's what he is. And he's like the last days of the Raj, and he finds himself on his balcony, and his balcony just happens to be Israel, and he's overlooking the Middle East, and he's just looking at anything or anyone or anyhow that opposes him, he characterizes as savagery. And that's what's happened here with Iran. We've said many times, that we are not proponents, not advocates of Iran, but we have also said that you have to observe some element or aspect of international humanitarian law. International laws, the rules-based system. If you run roughshod over the rules-based system, with the exceptionalism of saying it's all right for us to do it because we're America, or it's all right for us to do it because we're Israel, it's only a matter of time before other countries will, quite understandably, say, well, it doesn't matter, does it? Because it's us. Or what you certainly lose as the so-called holding the moral upper ground America, Israel, Western nation, you certainly can no longer stand in any place like the United Nations and claim or call out the behaviors of other countries. You remove your moral certitude. You remove your podium for certainty. You remove your ability to talk with any authority or any meaning about breaking international law. And that's why it matters. That's why you can't have little nuanced exceptionalisms. That's why I tell you what should have happened. I mean, because all of the current nightmare, World War III. I mean, people are talking about World War III. I mean, if I'm really honest, though, just to kind of take some of the heat out of it, I don't necessarily think World War III is going to happen. I think there are too many countries that do not want to be dragged. You know, most countries don't want to die. Most leaders don't want their countries to die. I do think this is now a tinderbox in the Middle East. I do think we are on the cusp and on the edge. Though the Western media is trying to promote a narrative that Iran is on its knees, I don't think Iran is as on its knees as the West would have us think. That's a propaganda machine. Think back to the good old-fashioned days of World War II, where, you know, fighting in the trenches, fighting in the war, in the far, you know, I mean, the Western, especially papers like the Telegraph, the Daily Mail, all these right-wing kind of publications, you know, they want to champion British and Western supremacy and we're all so bloody strong and all these savages, all these these uncultured countries. I mean, the thing that gets me is it's so blindingly obvious. I mean, this is even worse than when people would say, I'm not racist, but I mean, this is really this whole bombing campaign and Israel's overreach beyond the immediate aftermath of being able to self-defend in the aftermath of October the 7th. This is the whole kind of kit and caboodle of this disaster is really a metaphor for, I'm not racist, but genocide, but bomb your nuclear sites, but regime change. That's what it is. I'm not racist, but this is we're sliding into a Middle Eastern disaster zone based on really a bunch of what I would call white supremacist savages. And we're being gaslit. We're being gaslit and we're being manipulated by the press. But I mean, for example, I'm going to play you Donald Trump's full speech. But just to give you a few more sort of, this is as it happened last night. So that was the first piece from Truth Social, first post from him. He then said that he was going to be giving an address. We're going to see that address in a moment. And this was I think this was the last thing. Was this the last thing that he posted? No. So he then posted an American flag, just in case there was any doubt that he was American, or that, you know, America is first. You know, isn't it weird how flags generate such hysteria, don't they? You know, we've got kneecap in court for putting up a Hezbollah flag that was thrown on stage, and yet I see the use of any flag as radical. I see the kind of waving of any flag as a form of nationalist radicalization. So you know, so look, there you go. You've got big old American flag, and then his final thing was any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than that was what was witnessed tonight. Thank you, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. They find it really weird the way he says, thank you for your attention in this matter. Thank you. It's like mum has shown him how to write a letter, and he wants to demonstrate to us all that he can observe the marginal corners of decency and etiquette. It's like he's trying to prove something to his headmaster. Thank you very much kindly. Yours sincerely, Mr. Donald J. Trump, Esquire. I'm going to show you now two posts from the foreign minister of Iran. And the reason I want to show you these is, just for a moment, let's just pretend that we're not dealing with arch villains and arch here, you know, cowboy John Wayne in one corner, and, you know, I don't know, what have you got, sort of, you know, villain, Star Trek villain in the right. This is what the foreign minister of Iran said, and I want you to listen to this. The United States, a permanent member of the UN Security Council, has committed a grave violation of the UN Charter, international law, and the Non-Proliferation Treaty by attacking Iran's peaceful nuclear installations. Let's not forget, even Tulsi Gabbard, is that her name? Even his own head of intelligence said they're nowhere near creating a bomb, and then she quickly corrected that so that he could go and bomb them. The events this morning are outrageous and will have everlasting consequences. Each and every member of the United Nations must be alarmed over this extremely dangerous, lawless, and criminal behavior. In accordance with the UN Charter and its provisions allowing a legitimate response in self-defense, Iran reserves all options to defend its sovereignty, interest, and people. I'm presuming that if another country flew over the United States, and even though the United States were in diplomatic talks, bombed their nuclear sites, I would imagine America would respond. But you see, the concept of self-defense or response, regardless of what you think of the Iranian state, the Iranian regime, you can't have a justification of retaliation or self-defense on one side. It just doesn't work like that. I mean, I've said it before. We need to get into international politics and diplomacy. Whoever is responsible for kind of de-escalating bullying situations in primary schools, because that's what needs to be explained to both sides here. If you hit him because you say he hit you, when you hit him, he's allowed to hit you. I mean, it's pretty straightforward stuff. And then the next one from the foreign minister of Iran, and this is really, really important. I want you to really, really listen to this. This is a really important detail. Foreign Minister of Iran said, last week, we were in negotiations with the US when Israel decided to blow up that diplomacy. And this is really important. Remember that line, because when we get to what our completely spineless, GIMP-clad, GIMP latex-suited Prime Minister Starmer has to say about this, remember this quote. I'd like to see Starmer presented with this tweet for him to kind of still then say what he has to say about this evolving crisis. So Foreign Minister said, last week we were in negotiations with the US when Israel decided to blow up that diplomacy. This week, and we talked about it this week on Coffee Moaning, we held talks with the E3, 3 European countries, and the EU when the US decided to blow up that diplomacy. What conclusion would you draw? To Britain and the European Union High Representatives, it is Iran which must return to the table. But how can Iran return to something it never left, let alone blew up? Now, again, regardless of what you think, please let that sentence, how can Iran return to a table it never left? So what do we get from our gimpy Starmer? Oh, the situation in the Middle East remains volatile and stability in the region is a priority. We call on Iran to return to the negotiating table and reach a diplomatic solution to end this crisis. They were at the diplomatic table. They were at the negotiating table, you absolute specimen. You can't ask of the country that was at the diplomatic negotiating table, you can't ask them to stop. You can't then describe the situation in the Middle East as remaining volatile and that stability is at risk without acknowledging that this volatility has been created by Israel's overzealous, disproportionate, and absolutely criminal response since October the 7th. You can't just go, it's all October the 7th's fault. Every country that supposedly signs up to international treaties and international laws in the United Nations has a responsibility to proportionate response, apart from any country that Netanyahu, just remember, white supremacist slave owner equivalent, or Trump deems to be savages. So Donald Trump calls this a success. As Michu says, Iran says we've moved the uranium. It's become like a 1970s company. What was that film about? Who? I want to see it. Where's our dinosaur? Or who's got our dinosaur? I seem to remember there's a film on TV every year. Dawny Harvey, David Lammy will absolutely find it concerning. They're all concerned. Everyone's fucking concerned. Well, I'll tell you what, we're all more concerned about the people who are concerned. I've read the most sense from the Iranian foreign minister's ex posts. So let's just, in the spirit of, Starmer urges Iran to negotiate. They were negotiating. Iran's one detail, Iran's one caveat to returning to the diplomatic tables, and this is not about, you've got to understand, the way in which international laws work and the maintenance of international safety works is that you don't make special dispensations for different countries or based on, if Starmer can come out within a nanosecond and claim that Russia is committing a genocide and is breaching, and Putin's a war criminal without it going through the criminal courts, then we're all capable of being able to call out what Netanyahu is. This is total manipulation. This is total corruption. This is total gaslighting. This is the West and the Western media that props up the West, trying to ensure that the vast majority of the populations of the West buy into this narrative. And unfortunately, the vast majority of the populations of the West do buy into this logic, because people are, and this isn't everyone's fault. Don't get me, this isn't everyone in the West's fault. This isn't everyone sat there. I mean, it's hard to say it's not everyone who reads the Daily Mail's fault. But it's not, because, many people just they're self-interested. They just want to get on with their lives. They want the easiest life they can have. And that suits the rich. That suits the governments. That suits the authorities that want us all compliant and not challenging or asking questions. Starmer urges Iran to go back to the negotiating table, and Iran needs to show restraint. Who has asked Netanyahu to demonstrate restraint? No one has asked this of Netanyahu. And of course, as I said last night, we have the nauseating prospect, and I do have to give you a trigger warning. I will be playing a clip from Benjamin Netanyahu's thank you speech to Mr. President. No, thank you, Mr. President. I mean, it's the most unedifying oiling up and rubbing down of two lard-arsed leaders who just are so bloated and full to the gills of the flatulence of narcissism, that the pair of them orbit around each other like inflated balloons of narcissistic flatulence. Thank you, Mr. President. You're going to watch it. It's hideous. It's hideous. But before we go to the true horror of Netanyahu, I am going to inflict upon you the entirety of Donald Trump's speech last night, which is a symbolic and important moment in history. So, you know, prepare yourself. He gets emotional. He moves himself. I love that there's this line that Nadia uses about people. He's got tickets on himself. What that means is he's bought. I love this image. I love this when she says, "Oh, he's got tickets on himself." Nadia says. Nadia will be talking. We will be going live later. Nadia is so shocked and horrified by all of this, and is processing it, that she's needing to escape. This was going to be our first morning not doing something we do on our members area called the Sunday Show, because we're doing it on a Monday. Can you believe it? Classic. Normally we were going to go on a date this morning. Date nights get rained out, and today it was potentially World War III. How funny is that for all our regular followers? And ease. But this, yeah, he positively gets emotional towards the end of this. Tickets on himself. So the idea of he's got tickets on himself. I love this. So imagine anyone you know who's a real narcissist, going to the theatre box office, not buying them online, going to the theatre box office and saying, "I'd like 2 tickets, please." And they go, "Well, for what show?" "Me." "What do you mean me?" "It's about me." "Oh, you want to buy tickets for yourself?" "Yeah, tickets. I want to get tickets on myself." You're so enamored with yourself that you've got to buy tickets to see yourself. It so speaks to the truth of these absolute fucking morons.
Ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordo.
Oh my God, I see the memes coming. Fordo. Now, Marco Rubio looks like he has seen God or hell. Pete Hegseth on the right there looks like he's either holding in a fart, or he's just trying to perfect the golden eagle brow. JD Vance is confused. And I think that just that extra little space between Vance and the other 3 suggests maybe he's got his own little mission at work there too.
And Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success.
How do you gauge that? I'm really interested to know how they gauge a spectacular military success. My hunch is that in Donald Trump's world, a spectacular success is that the hatch opened and the bombs fell out, and it's automatically a success.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East.
The bully of the Middle East. I can think of a better candidate for that title.
If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani.
That was a tricky one for him to hurdle over, wasn't it? You felt it incoming. You could see the look of panic on his eyes as he looked at the auto cue. How the fuck is he going to say that? He's just got past the 3 nuclear sites. Oh my God, those names that we all are tripping off the tongue, aren't they? They're such a part of our everyday kind of, existential World War III nightmare mentality.
I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before.
He rubbed down my back. I rubbed down his. I made sure his pecs were beautifully brought together. Me and Bibi, we're babies in a sack. We're two BBs in a sack together. Two butt cheeks rubbing up against each other, creating friction and frisson. Not nuclear. Oh, no. That's just Iran. No, no, no.
And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill.
So there's the promise of more action. They're not done. They're not done. More action is incoming. And just prepare yourself, because we're getting into the kind of the swans. We're getting into the sunset stage of his speech. And he gets a little bit emotional. This is where he's fully in the process of having bought the tickets on himself. He's got the tickets in his suit breast pocket, and he's considering, God, I'm going to be able to go and see me at the theater on Friday.
Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
God is up there. God is up there like this. He's sort of caught on the hoof. God, don't thank me, mate. Don't thank me. I mean, oh my God. He got emotional. He's genuinely thanking God personally. That's not a sort of thanking the concept of God. He feels he's thanking God. He thinks God has bought tickets on him. I mean, if it wasn't so fucking mad, it wouldn't be so funny. It's so funny, it's mad. I don't know what it is anymore. It's painful listening. Someone just then said, Starmer's your daddy. No, Trump is Starmer's daddy. And if you think we're sat here pulling down Trump and we're not absolutely hideously embarrassed and offended by our government, you're having a laugh. Starmer is an unforgivable excuse of a man. He is a rabbit caught in the headlights. He doesn't know what to do, when to do it. He can't say anything meaningful. Every word that spills out of our fucking government's mouth is a crock of absolute non-specific, self-justifying nonsense. It doesn't speak to any truth of any form, and it's just low-level gaslighting manipulation concurring with the mainstream narrative. As you say, Miju, God wasn't watching YouTube. I posted a meme the other day, which was a photo of Jesus just kind of coming to terms with all those arseholes who were doing stuff in his name. It's just hideous. Well, that was his speech. That was his speech late last night. That happened about an hour and a half after we went to bed. It was odd being at the very front of such a seismic moment. Thank you again, Christos, if you get to watch this. Where the only news in the world for that moment, for about 4 minutes, we were ahead of even all of the major news gatherers in the UK. because the only place that the news had landed was on Donald Trump's Truth Social account. So for a moment there, all we could talk about was what he said. This mad world. Now, I do have to issue one of the gravest trigger warnings before I play you the next clip. Starmer is hiding under a mushroom. I feel sorry for the mushrooms now, Dawny. And I also now want mushrooms on toast. I'm going to play you Bibi, the giant, tyrannical, genocidal toddler, marauding around the Middle East. Let's not forget he's from Poland. Do you remember that? I think he's of Polish descent. And he grew up in, and I think he grew up in America. I think he went to school in New Jersey. But he lays claim. He stakes his flag into the heart of the Middle East and lays claim to his land because he all these savages all around him. Oh, thank you, Reese. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Oh, bless you, Mark. You killed it last night. You and Nads are officially journalists in my book. You've got to claim that one again. Well, you know what? I said to Nadia this morning, I said, the thing about journalism isn't journalism of any form. You get as much information as you can get. And that's half the knack. That's half the trick. But isn't it about digesting, analyzing, cross-examining, contrasting, superimposing one set of news flow against another set of news flow, looking at things from not just the received position that Iran is a baddie. That's not to say Iran hasn't done bad things before everyone gets their knickers in a twist and the Daily Mail starts running around going, ooh, Iran supporters. It's not about that. This is about needing some kind of fucking rules-based system that is consistent. You need a system that's consistent. Putin completely went against that system with Ukraine. But that doesn't mean you can't even analyze the global politics of what's happened in Ukraine and why it's happened and why Putin's done what he's done. Understanding and preaching international law isn't the same as supporting corrupt regimes or, you know, regimes that do bad things. But this presupposes that America doesn't do bad things. So I warn you now, I have watched this. I have listened to this. I had to turn the volume down as I was screen recording it because Nadia, I thought, was going to have a heart attack. This is Netanyahu, be warned, in response to America bombing Iran.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history.
The awesome and righteous might. In a minute, so Trump thinks God is watching YouTube, and Netanyahu, I genuinely think Netanyahu cosplays every Friday as Moses. I think he thinks he's Moses. I think Netanyahu believes he can part the Dead Sea. And if he could part the Dead Sea, he'd just walk across and claim Jordan as his own.
In Operation Rising Lion, Israel has done truly amazing things. But in tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed.
Unsurpassed. Mitchell makes a good point. It's like, I don't have anything. It's like he pulls out a scroll. I mean, I'm amazed that Netanyahu doesn't give his press statements or press briefings in front of a mountain with a sort of what they called a tablet of stone with it etched in.
On what no other country on earth could do. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength.
Oh my God. President Trump and I say, when we're skipping through the graveyard of dead babies and dead women and dead men, when we're skipping through the genocidal wasteland of Gaza, when we're sat on our balconies in our Gaza Riviera, we often look at each other and we say, This is worse. This is worse than that AI film, which everyone thought was real, of the so-called Gaza Riviera. Oh my God. Are people really lapping this shit up? Because if you're lapping this shit up, you seriously have been lobotomized. In a weird way, I can forgive many of those who support him in Israel, because they're sort of privy to like us, to the gaslighting press in their own country. They're limited access to any critical thinking. But my God, the unedifying image of the two of them. We often say to each other when we're sat on our balcony looking at the death of savages over there, we just say to ourselves, if only the Middle East was a whole lot neater and cleaner, and there was a KFC over there, and if only.
First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel thank you. The forces of civilization thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel. And may God bless our unshakable alliance, our unbreakable faith.
Oh, God. Sometimes I just have to imagine him shouting just to take some of his energy out of him. Anyway, let's update ourselves. Where are we at as we speak right now? The Iranian foreign minister has refused to rule out restricting global trade or pulling out of nuclear treaty. Iranian foreign minister declined to say whether Tehran would seek to restrict global trade through the Strait of Hormuz or pull out of the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. He says there are plenty of options available to us, and that's it. Of course, the way for diplomacy should always remain open, but we are not in a situation right now to decide how to engage in diplomacy once again and with whom. So let's wait for our response. He lashed out at Washington and Trump in particular, closing by describing how he is going to fly to Moscow this afternoon. So the Iranian foreign minister is flying to Moscow this afternoon. I'll be amazed if the Israeli or Americans allow that plane to land, and meet the Russian President Vladimir Putin tomorrow morning. The foreign minister for Iran says, while President Trump elected on a platform of putting an end to America's costly involvement in forever wars in our part of the world, he has betrayed not only Iran by abusing our commitment to diplomacy, but also deceived his own voters who are submitting to the wishes of a wanted war criminal. Has everyone forgotten that there are arrest warrants out for Benjamin Netanyahu? Has our press, has the Times, which actually printed a co-authored article by Yoav Gallant, a wanted war criminal, our newspaper, The Times, has paid Yoav Gallant to co-write an article for it. This unbelievable. In other updates, Iran's foreign minister has also warned that the US attack will have far-reaching implications. This is an outrageous and grave and unprecedented violation of the principles of the UN Charter, and the warmongering and lawless administration in Washington is solely and fully responsible for the dangerous consequences and far-reaching implications of this act. There's another breaking. Keir Starmer is to chair a COBRA meeting of ministers and senior officials this afternoon. Mate, I mean, he goes to great lengths, Starmer, in another part of his telling Iran to de-escalate when only Netanyahu and Trump are escalating. How can you ask a country to de-escalate when the only one escalating is the oh my God, it's the classic narcissistic fucking trade-off. Starmer, mate, you're calling a COBRA meeting. You've been cut out of the loop. You weren't even asked for use of Diego Garcia. You're out of the loop, mate. You're out of the loop. Just 1 second. So in further news, in a minute, that we're so Starmer to chair COBRA meeting. Turkey. And it's important to understand what these responses are, because in these responses from these countries, can we start to map out what's going to happen in the ensuing weeks? Turkey has warned the US attack on Iran could turn a regional conflict into a global one. as the foreign ministry said Ankara was deeply concerned about the possible repercussions. In a statement, the Turkish ministry said that a spread of the conflict into a wider global war must not be allowed and called on all parties to act with responsibility. It repeated the sentiment that only negotiations can resolve the dispute between Tehran and Washington. There's a clear way. I mean, even Turkey, they have demonstrated you can ask for restraint and a restart of negotiations without just telling Iran to do it. And I think this is really, really important. It was that MS Cobra meeting will be whose coffee is the tastiest. Absolutely. Just a reminder, if you haven't, do subscribe. We will be updating this story as it goes along. We are going to be live again later. Nadia is going to be joining me. You're going to be hearing her feelings, her emotions, her thoughts on all of this. She's just too incensed by the mutual masturbatory love-in that's going on between Netanyahu and Trump. She just couldn't bring herself to observe it or view it. Oh, it's just, look, I mean, the updates are coming in so thick and fast, so I do apologize. At least this gives you the sort of latest. What's the latest update? Just now, Indian Prime Minister Modi said he spoke with the Iranian president on Sunday to express deep concern at the recent escalations. Modi posted, I spoke with the president of Iran. We discussed in detail the current situation, reiterated our call for immediate de-escalation, dialogue and diplomacy as the way forward. New Delhi has become increasingly worried about the risks from a widening Middle East conflict. Pakistan is a supporter and ally of Iran. India and Iran share a long relationship shared by what both sides call civilizational links. Iran was one of India's largest crude oil suppliers until US sanctions forced a halt. New Delhi has also invested heavily in Iran's port. You see, lots of countries are inextricably entwined in ways that we would never, ever fully know. Israel, yes, get back to the negotiating table, but Israel has killed, allegedly, the IDF has announced they've killed all of Iran's negotiators. So, I mean, I think the hope in the West is very much that the constant, whilst there's the theatrics of dropping massive bunker bombs on the nuclear sites, and you've got this odd vision of little VW camper vans shooting across the kind of tundra of Iran with uranium kind of test tubes in the back rattling a la Little Miss Sunshine as they rapidly head towards the borders. Israel is, and it has to be sort of acknowledged, Israel is eroding on a constant basis the Iranian regime's ability to retaliate or shoot back. So Iran may well say all American bases are at risk in the region. But I mean, some observers are saying if they do engage with America, or if they do hit an American base, say in Jordan or Qatar or wherever, the response will be so sort of profound that it could all be over within days, I think. So, I mean, you know, regardless of how one feels about the rights and wrongs of what's happened, regardless of how one just cannot believe the tyrannical manipulation, the gaslighting and the self-aggrandizing of these Netanyahu and Trump, we also have to acknowledge that Israel and Trump have managed to get Iran literally on its knees. They've got the Middle East in abeyance. They are like landowners, like slave owners, like plantation owners. They have got this, in their eyes, uncivilized wilderness. They are trying to civilize it. This is like the new frontier, except it's one of the oldest frontiers in the world. So it's quite shocking. I'm just going to do a quick update here. That's the Indian Prime Minister. That's the latest update there. More reaction from Europe. French Foreign Minister has said that France learned of the US strikes this morning. It's a Sunday. They're probably having their croissants late, and they were like, oh no, they've run out of almond croissants. What's that? They've hit Iran. Shit. France did not take part in these strikes. Lots of people saying, like Britain, we didn't do it. We weren't responsible. Because I think that's why Starmer will be calling a Cobra meeting. Look, Nadia said this morning. We are all now in the West infinitely more vulnerable to any sleeper cells or potential acts of terrorism. And just because one disagrees with the global political decision to do this, whatever those potential risks have just been amplified by this aggression. You can't pretend that you can do something aggressive or destructive and there be no consequences. There are going to be consequences. And the consequences are that the entire Western world is now infinitely less safe. It's a fact. Mossad have sleeper cells. Yeah. Iran's foreign minister have reported that. More reaction from the Gulf. United Arab Emirates has told all sides to stop escalating the conflict. I mean, you know, you've got to say that. I mean, why can't Starmer say all sides need to stop? Of course, I'm asking that knowing because he's fucking Trump's gimp. Starmer sat there with his great big teddy bear Paddington eyes staring left, right. In fact, no, he's more like the monkey that claps the cymbals, isn't he? Like that. Propaganda change. Please de-escalate. I mean, he's truly, I mean, he's like a Dalek. He sounds like a Dalek. Let's pivot over to the Tory paper of the Telegraph. Let's see what's happening here. The Sun reports Iran. The Iranian foreign minister is to meet with mad Russian director Vladimir Putin within hours. Well, tomorrow morning, yeah, but I suppose, yeah, within hours, and warned the West of unprecedented danger after the US blitzed 3 of its nuclear sites. So I'm just trying to, let me just get to live updates here. It's always interesting to pivot over to the right. So, yeah, they're reporting that Iran's foreign minister is heading to Moscow. UK faces an increased threat of Iranian attack, warns minister. Starmer says focus is on de-escalation and diplomacy. Well, brutally honest with you, mate, Starmer, I think Iran was focused on that and had said repeatedly, Israel needs to stop attacking. Israeli army says it has other goals in Iran and will continue with its attacks. So Israel is preventing any form of diplomatic end. So the only country that will refuse to back down is Israel. The Israeli army said today it had other goals in Iran. We have other goals and we will continue to act until we attain them, which presumably means that that is a declaration by Israel of regime change. Nothing new there, but they're kind of formally saying it. The threat of Iranian attacks in the UK could increase in the wake of the US bombing. The Jonathan Reynolds, the business secretary, has said that Iran's disruptive spying operations in the UK were already at a significant level. He said, I think it would be naive to say that that wouldn't potentially increase. But again, there's a choice here for Iran. There's no choice here. No one's holding a torch at all to Israel, are they? This is like putting someone in the corner of the playground, punching them repeatedly and asking them to say, oh, please, let's stop. This isn't a negotiated peace. When did we last have an Iranian-specific attack, Michu? The 80s. There you go. And let's not forget, the West, Israel specifically, there's a very opaque support system of organizations like Al-Qaeda. So remember that. Remember that. Just because we have Western states doesn't mean we haven't had our fingers in many terrorist pies. Just bear with me one sec. Let's just have a look. Any other updates? And that's where I think we are at the moment. Just going back to the top of this feed. Let's just have a look on Al Jazeera. You often get a more immediate. Okay, yeah, 5 minutes ago. No, 6 seconds ago. This is Russia's Medvedev, deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, says the absolute majority of nations are against the actions of Israel and the United States. Trump, who came as a peacemaker president, started a new war for the US, he said on his Telegram channel. The US is drawn into a new conflict with the prospect of a ground operation. With this kind of success, Trump won't win the Nobel Peace Prize. Satellite images show unusual activity at Fordo days before the US attack. 16 cargo trucks. So presumably whatever the Americans even feel they may have got or hit at Fordo has gone. Big risks to all airlines flying to and from the Middle East. It's highly recommended that you don't travel to the Middle East at the moment. Now, let's not forget, Nadia has family in Jordan, incredibly vulnerable, incredibly worrying, incredibly distressing. Audrey, sorry, let's have a few of your comments now, guys, and then we'll sum up, and then, as I say, we'll come back later. Audrey, sorry, Iran have not caused a war for nearly 300 years. Well, in the spirit of fairness, I think many would say that this is where it gets really complicated, because many of the proxy groups, such as Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, are, armed and have been funded and supported by Iran. What people choose to forget in all of that is that, yes, these are prescribed terrorist organizations according to British law. So just be absolutely clear on that, prescribed terrorist organizations. But in each instance, there is a perception amongst those supporters of Hezbollah, and there's a perception amongst supporters of Hamas, and a perception amongst the Houthis, that they are trying to fight against an aggressive, expansionist, imperialist regime in Israel. And I think until the last 20 months, I think Israel could have argued quite comprehensively, or perhaps if they got rid of Netanyahu, that they were quite happy with just what they've got. But we've seen such an aggressive expansionism with the settlers, the settlements, the encroachment in Syria, and now this in Iran, that I think it's safe to say that, that fear that they have an expansionist foreign policy is real. So yes, Iran has supported these prescribed terrorist organizations. But again, it's a matter of perspective and point of view as to which country you're coming from and which people you're, in a sense, arguing for, as to how evil and how proxy all that is. Because, to have this pretense that us as the British and Americans don't support proxy regimes is a joke. I mean, just look at the leader of Syria. We went from the head of Al-Qaeda being the most wanted criminal in the world to, all right, let's shake your hand and we'll lift sanctions. It's all transactional. Everything is transactional. So we're going to leave it there for now, but I will leave you with this. This is something that this is a historic quote. I've popped it on my Instagram. It's doing the rounds on social media, just to remind ourselves. Michu, very good point. Let's not beat around the bush. Israel is a US and UK proxy. Beautifully put, simply put. Let's remind ourselves of what Donald Trump's opinion on any invasion of Iran was when Obama was president. Was it Obama?
Will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective.
Well, as I said, pot, kettle black, and all the rest of it. So, guys, until later, stay safe. We will be keeping abreast of the news. If there are any major developments, obviously we'll go live, but we will definitely be doing something later today, me and Nadia, on our first day off from doing the Sunday show on a Sunday, but you will be getting your No Name Sunday show on a Monday evening to all your members. If you haven't, please subscribe. You will get your updates, hit the notification bell, and we can promise you on a regular basis that we will always challenge the headlines that we are given. We won't just gobble them up and spout them out. All right. Take care, guys. Thanks for all of your